Interpreters, we have Hannah and Michael with us to help us out today. So I want to start with just a little intro on the League. So the League of Women Voters is hosting the 3 legislative coffees this year during the 99th legislative session. Next year will be a big celebration, I think. The League is a nonpartisan political organization. We encourage informed and active participation in government. We work to increase understanding of major public policy issues and influence public policy through education and advocacy. And this is election season. I think all of you know that. So just a reminder that because of our nonpartisan policy, while you are inside this forum, in this hall, you cannot circulate petitions or sign petitions. We don't hold up signs for those types of things. And I know people love to applause, but every time we break into applause, we have to stop and use up time. So I'm going to ask you to refrain from applause on any issue. You can do that at the end. We are live streaming these coffees. Thanks so much to John Fixdahl with Media One. So if you aren't going to be able to be here at a future one, you can go to the Sioux Falls League of Women Voters Facebook page, and we have a new YouTube channel as well. So just search Sioux Falls League of Women Voters and you'll be able to find these. I want to give a special thanks to our sponsors and our partners who have made continuing this endeavor possible. So AARP of South Dakota, Augustana Democrats and Augustana Republicans, Change Agents of South Dakota, LEAD, Media One, South Dakota Federation of Labor, the South Dakota Advocacy Network for Women, Sioux Falls Education Association, and the UCW Local 304A. As I indicated a little earlier, we are not going to be picking up question cards in the recital hall, so just remember that, and I'll give you the email address again throughout, but you can email questions if something comes to mind and you want to try to get it in to siouxfallslwv@gmail.com. And again, the Wi-Fi host here is all caps AU space conference, CONF, space GUST. And that's, I think, primarily for our legislators, so they'll be able to look up bills. And we do really need bill numbers when possible. It just helps us all make sure that we're on the right topic. As I throw cards down, sorry about that. And the other thing, as you can see, getting lots of questions already. The stacks that are paper clipped together are because we've had multiple questions on the same topic. And so what will happen in those situations, I'm going to glance through them and I'm going to kind of try to combine them into one general question. So your exact individual question may not get asked, but we hope to get the topic in. And I just took care of mine, but we may ask all of you to silence your cell phones. I think the other thing that has been traditional with our coffees is that your senators and representatives take time out of their personal schedules to be here, and most of them are gracious to spend some time afterwards answering individual questions as well. Sometimes people do have other appointments to make and may need to step out, but and with that, we have before us today our legislators from the Eastern Sioux Falls area, Districts 2, 10, and 14. We're missing 3 folks today who had conflicts. Representative Rayfelt, you'll see her name tag is up there. She was going to try to make some rearrangement in her schedule, so she might be able to step in later on if that works for her. So, but grateful for those of our representatives and senators that are here with us. They're each going to get an opportunity to introduce themselves, tell you what district they represent, what committees they're on, how long they've served in the legislature. And then when we move into the question phase, they will have 90 seconds to respond to questions. There is no rebuttal time. I think everybody knows up here, but if you want to respond to a question, if you can raise your hand a little bit, make sure you get my attention. Then I will call on you in order. Please note that we have timers in the front row here, and they will hold up a sign when you have 30 seconds remaining and a stop sign when you have 90 seconds remaining. And so I think everyone's going to see those. If I'm not seeing them, they're going to shake it a little bit to get my attention. And then when we get to the end today at about 11:30, what I will do is stop with the questions and give all of our legislators today an opportunity for a 90-second closing statement. And during that, that's their time to bring up maybe a comment on something that was brought up earlier. They may have a topic they personally want to talk about that hasn't come up in the questions, so it's kind of their time to speak to the issues that are most important to them. And so with that, we are going to start with our introductions, and we'll start those on my left, which will be with Representative Cameron Nelson.
Hold, please. Oh, there we go. Yep. Good morning. Representative Cameron Nelson, serving District 10, which is central Sioux Falls and northeast, so kind of around McKinnon Park area all the way up to Washington High School-ish. This is my first term, so my second session. It's been a whirlwind. I joke sometimes that you get elected in November and then you got a month and a half to figure out a job that you've never done. So it's a lot of trial by fire and figuring it out and leaning on a lot of wonderful, brilliant human beings who are looking to make South Dakota better. So thanks for having us here today. I serve on Health and Human Services as well as our House Commerce and Energy. I also serve on our House Retirement Laws, as well as a legislative liaison to the Governor's Office of Economic Development for the Ready Loan Fund, which is primarily some funding for economic development to projects that typically don't meet the risk factor of a traditional loan for some banks. So thanks for having us out here. Looking forward to your questions, and I'll absolutely stick around a little bit after. Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Erin Healy. I also represent District 10 in Sioux Falls. I serve as Assistant Minority Leader in the House. I am on my third term, my sixth year, and I serve on the State Affairs Committee, Health and Human Services, Legislative Rules and Procedure, and also a Rules Review Committee that reviews administrative rules during the off months. I work at Sanford when I'm not in session, and I have a husband who couldn't be here today, 2 stepkids, 10 and 12. We are a really active family, so we have drum today, we have volleyball, and I have my 2-month-old. If you hear any cries in the audience, it's probably him and my answers. So my 2-month-old Arlo is over here with my stepmom and my dad.
He's our little youngest constituent. We always consult him first as the voice of youth. I'm also from District 10. I'm Liz Larson. I think I've met a lot of you before, but I'm the senator from District 10 along with these wonderful people. I'm on, the committees that I'm on are Agriculture and Natural Resources. I'm also the vice chair of Senate Transportation, and I'm on Senate Local Government and Senate Education. I just got put on Education as there was an opening, so I'm on 4 committees. I'm also a first-time legislator, so last year, like Cameron, I was trying to learn the ropes, which either baptism by fire or drinking from a fire hose are the 2 things that we usually say about that time. But there are a lot of bills this year because a lot of the folks who were first year last year are starting to sort of know what they're doing. So there's a lot more bills this year than there was last year. I really thank you guys for having us here and organizing this event. And I'm much more interested in what questions you have than what I could say in opening statements. So I'm just going to say thank you for coming.
Well, good morning. I want to extend my thanks to the League of Women Voters for putting this on again this year. Appreciate the opportunity, any chance we get to come and hear your questions and kind of see what matters to you. It's great to see such a huge turnout on a Saturday that could be busy, is busy with family and friends and a lot of activities and stuff too. So introduction quick, Tyler Tortson. My quick summary is I was born here in Sioux Falls. I grew up in Rapid City. I'm a Sistian-Wahpeton tribal member from northeastern South Dakota, first-gen college student from USD. Lived and worked in Pierre for a couple years and then live here now. I've been here for about 7 years now with my wife, who's from Wagner originally, a Yankton Sioux tribal member. We got 2 little boys, almost 4 and almost 2, so they keep us pretty busy. And then I'm also in my first term, so second year in the legislature, serve on the House Education, House Judiciary Committees. And yeah, that's it. Happy to be here. Thank you.
It is on. It's on. Thank you. Okay, so I'm Dave Call. It's good to be here. I'm a representative. I'm from District 2, which District 2 is Brandon Valley area primarily. So a little bit on the east side of Sioux Falls and then all the way to the border. And we're probably one of the best designed districts that we have right now. And it's good to see some friendly faces from Brandon that made the trip over. We came the furthest. So this is my first term. Also, the other thing that I do is I also serve on the city council over in Brandon right now. So I got a lot of the local government and now the state government. I serve on the judiciary and health and human services. My background is I did 30 years with the Sioux Falls Police Department. And then I was a police chief out in Brandon for 11 years and retired there in 2019 and have failed at retirement ever since, it seems. So that's what I've got right now. We're going to turn it over to Larry.
Good morning. My name is Senator Larry Zickman. I'm from District 14. District 14 is in the southeast part of the city. And it's good to be here. I'm going to start off first where I always start off, just for a couple of my seconds. And I want to have all the veterans, military people that have ever served, including the Guard and Reserve. Would you stand, please? If there are any, hopefully we have some in all the people that have served in the military. And we need to thank you folks because you're one of the reasons that we can sit up here and do this. And so as a veteran, I do a lot of stuff for veterans. I was the prime sponsor for the new Veterans Cemetery when I was in the House and do a lot of things for the veterans. So I'm very, very proud of what we do for the veterans and their families. So I'm on appropriations and also I'm vice chair for Military and Veterans Affairs, figure that, in the Senate. And also I serve on the Senate retirement laws. So we have a lot of things that we're going to be going through this year. It's going to be different. I know we got some questions out there on funding, appropriations, etc. We're very, very proud, which we hope we're going to work toward the governor's goal in the 4% for their teachers, etc. The big 3 is what we call them. And so I have to be very careful at what I say because I've got another appropriator in the audience, and she'll correct me if she's sitting right up here, Linda Dubin. Linda serves she does a very good job on appropriations for us. So with that, Madam Chair, it's yours.
Thank you, Senator Zickman. All right, we are going to move into questions. And when they train us how to become a moderator, it's kind of like, well, open with a softball and, save the hard issues to the middle and then wrap up with something nice kind of thing. Well, I don't have a softball question in front of me. So we're just going to jump right in. I am picking a topic that is kind of a carryover from last year just because we are still a little early in the session, although there's been a lot of activity. So sometimes not everyone has seen all the bills, but this is an issue that, because it was around last year, I think everyone's probably maybe got some comments on. So had multiple questions come in regard to food and sales tax. So related bills I have down as House Bill 1001 and Senate Bill 164. But, so there are a number of proposals out there on doing something with the sales tax. So how I'm going to phrase this question for all of you is, do you support either making the current sales tax reduction on food permanent or eliminating it? So that is the question, if we have any takers. Representative Call.
I'll start out on this. This came before us on the House, and it did pass 54 to 12, and I was one of the 12 that voted against. My concern with this is we've got the food tax that's on the ballot coming up, and if that passes, it's going to have an impact. The appropriators are going to be able to talk about that a little bit better than I, but I've heard anywhere from 108 to 130 million dollars that comes out of the state budget. The other thing that's really got me concerned is being on the city council. The cities and towns around the state depend on the sales tax, and the Attorney General's opinion on this is that if this is passed, the state will not be able to collect any sales tax on food, including food for municipalities. And so we've got a couple of years. I think it's 27 is when it kicks in. We've got a couple of years to consider this, and I think it's premature myself. I was in the minority on that. We'll see how it goes on the, it was tabled. So, thank you.
Thank you, Betty.
Representative Cameron.
So I agree with the representative who just spoke, David Cole from District 2. The entire process about repealing the 0.3% sales tax across the board, we were able to put a sunset clause on that so that we, as a legislature, and on behalf of the entire state of South Dakota, all of you here, so that we can functionally and responsibly understand our numbers after all of the COVID response dollars are no longer in our state coursing through our economic recovery. So as those dollars continue to taper off of use and circulation within our economy, we need to be able to make sure that we are having the revenue generation that we need to provide adequate services to everyone here in this room. So we also oppose the permanent cut on the 0.3% sales tax repeal. For now, right? The sunset clause is still on there. It died over in the Senate. I guess it was tabled. And we need to know more information about what our fiscal health looks like long term before we make those decisions, because it's a lot more difficult to put it back up, and it's not super popular to raise taxes, as everyone knows here in South Dakota. And so that was the responsible thing to do. As far as the repeal on Senate Bill 164, the food tax, I think when we look at an option for revenue replacement, Senator Nessebar offered a wonderful thing, and I ran out of time.
Thank you. Representative Healy.
I'll finish that sentence because I was literally I looked at Betty and I said, I'm going to speak on this, and then Representative Nelson started to say exactly what I wanted to say. So I think if we are looking at where we can make tax cuts after we see what we've seen in our state and exactly what Representative Nelson explained to you, then yes, the passage of repealing a grocery tax, a sales tax on food, is exactly the place that we should be looking at. We know that it's a regressive tax and an unfair burden on a lot of families in South Dakota.
Senator Zickman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, the Senate Appropriations Committee, by the way, there's a House and the Senate, there's a joint that meets in joint appropriations every day, and then the Senate and the House meet separately, so at different times. This is one of those different times when it was sent to the Senate appropriations to hear and to decide on. And they're right, the House passed it, something 50, something to 12 or whatever it was. And then it came over to Senate Appropriations, and it died in Senate Appropriations 7-2. One of the main reasons is, again, you heard it, the sunset clause. You have the tax is going to stay the way it is right now, the 4.2. So that's going to stay. So what the person that put the bill in wanted to do was make it permanent after you only had 1 year. So you have to let it run out and see where we are in 4 years. We're not going to have the money that we did this last number of years, folks. The money's just not going to be there. And we balance a budget at the end of the year. So anyway, that's where it was, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Else? Okay. We're going to stay on the tax topic for one more question. I got a couple of questions in on Senate Bill 167. Owner-occupied homes have been receiving property tax relief since the Janklow administration. How is this bill any different from what is in place already? So Senate Bill 167, I don't know that that's had a hearing yet. So, okay, so doesn't look like we have anybody familiar. Oh, Senator, or Representative Kola.
No, I'm looking it up.
Okay.
Give me a minute.
Give you a minute. All right, great. Representative Nelson.
Quickly, so this was just introduced on the 25th, which was 2 days ago, in the Senate side. So that will be referred to Senate taxation. That's just information for the crowd. I have not been able to read the bill at all, so I don't even know what it is discussing at the moment. So,
Went to. Looked like Senator Zickman was raising hand.
Well, this is Senator Colbeck's bill, and it hasn't been brought in front of committee yet, so that's going to be an interesting bill. We have to do something, folks, with property taxes. I mean, somewhere along the line, we need to do something with property taxes. I had a call this morning from a constituent in another area. He said he got his tax bill and it went up 25%. You know, that's terrible. We got to look at doing something with the property taxes, including the opt-out tax. So you're going to see some tax bills coming through, et cetera. I hope that what we have coming through is there to help you alleviate some of those funds that you have to pay for property taxes. They're getting out of hand. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right. So as you can tell, when it's early in session, a lot of times there was a whole lot of bills that dropped on the last day, and so not everyone's had a chance to read them, let alone analyze them and develop an opinion on those. So I'm going to go to another topic, multiple questions again, carryover from last year again, so it's at least a familiar topic. This has SJR 501. This is in regard to the Medicaid work requirement for those individuals on the new Medicaid expansion, I believe. So obviously, there's a lot of detail in all of these questions, but I'm just going to put it out there that what is your position on the work requirement for Medicaid expansion? Any takers? Senator Larson.
Well, this just came through the Senate. Is this on? This just came through the Senate at the end of last week, and I believe all the Democrats voted against it. And the problem with this is that, you know, the voters decided that we wanted Medicaid expansion in the last election cycle, and now we are adding restraints on it that is going to make it a lot harder for actually employed people to access Medicaid. When we put a work requirement, when we put a work requirement on this type of a benefit that requires extra paperwork, extra red tape, It's a burden not only for the person who is probably going to get the insurance, but it's also a burden for the small businesses as well. So from my perspective, it doesn't even make business sense to do it. So it was a disappointing day for me when that came out, and yeah, I don't support it.
Representative Tortzen.
Thank you. So this one hasn't been over to us in the House yet, but I'll tell you, I supported it last year, I supported it this year, and I'll tell you why. Part of that is because it's a resolution that would propose, if passed, to go on the ballot for you all to decide whether or not we want to add this change. So it's giving that, it's just posing the question. It's not mandating it. And in addition, it would apply to able-bodied people that, so it doesn't apply to physically or mentally disabled. So that work requirement piece on that front. And then it also wouldn't go, even if the voters decide and agree and want to add that option for South Dakota for the Medicaid piece, it would have to be allowed by Congress or by the administration through Department of Health and Human Services, CMS, that kind of thing, and that's not in play anywhere else yet either. So there's a lot of steps to get there, even if this does pass.
I have Representative Healy and then Representative Nelson.
Thank you. Oh, this is up now. Can you hear? Does it work? Okay, perfect. It's so hard to tell up here. We know that this isn't an equitable solution, and I just don't understand why we continue to make it harder for people to access good health care. When people voted on Medicaid expansion, back in 2022, we already knew that we were voting to not further limitations. It specifically said that in the measure itself, that we weren't going to limit more, that work requirements weren't going to be ever required. So it's really disappointing that we're here again, that we're having this conversation, that we're continuing to chip away at people's right to access health care. Other states that have enforced work requirements, they haven't really seen much success. And that's because work requirements don't work. You can see that in the states that have actually gotten rid of a work requirement after having it. And the result isn't that more people are going to work, it's that less people are going to get health insurance. So for all those reasons, I will be opposing 501.
Representative Nelson.
Thank you, Betty. I think it's important to remember that just 15 months ago, the people of South Dakota, the voters, said by a decision at the ballot box to expand Medicaid. And in that provision said, for people who qualify under this amendment, the state may not impose burdens or restrictions that are greater than those imposed on any other person eligible for Medicaid health benefits under South Dakota law. 56% of South Dakotans said, we want this, and there were tens of thousands of signatures collected to put that to the ballot by people, by South Dakotans, and now a handful of our elected officials are saying, let's sidestep this, try and work it to our benefit, and pass this on a ballot. I think that is disrespectful to the intent and the will of the people who've already fought a hard-fought win to expand access to health care. Medicaid expansion provides additional supports for that working poor group. These are people who possibly don't have health insurance through their employment and already. So to add this very nebulous work requirement is just that, more paperwork. And when we support that group that may make too much money to qualify for that Medicaid, but don't make enough money to pay for health insurance, that's the problem. So I oppose that.
Senator Larson.
Just
Oh,
one,
no, you went already. Sorry. Sorry. My bad. Can't yield time, can't rebuttal. It's really bad when the moderator breaks the rules. Yeah, so we are going to move on to another topic that I've got. There are multiple measures introduced regarding guns and gun reform. And so I'm going to start with the one that I think has at least had a hearing, which is Senate Bill 39. guns and homeowner associations. Okay, give you guys a second to look that up. And so the question that was submitted is, the state of South Dakota going to compensate citizens for demanding guns brought into the premises where HOA buildings and lands were previously restricted? I think, that's like I said, sometimes we get very detailed questions, but that's the question. But just, your position on Senate Bill 39, Representative Nelson.
Thank you, Betty. I think I'm the only one that might have seen this, unless you're on Commerce, Senator Zickman. This came through House Commerce, and what it does is limits an HOA association, which is a local group who are deeded into the system. They are either purchasing a condominium or a home within a gated community. The senator who brought this, Senator Roll, was concerned about an individual who had more of a spat with the homeowners association president that ultimately resulted in an unfavorable determination for that person in Colorado, I believe. So what this also does is it doesn't allow an HOA to limit restriction of a discharge of a firearm within an HOA. So yes, it has the prohibiting, restricting the lawful discharge of a firearm. There was just lots of questions. So ultimately, I ended up opposing this for that reason.
All right, anyone else? Representative Cole?
Okay, so I did vote for this, and I voted for it because it's the way I looked at it is, you have an HOA that says that you cannot in any form exercise your Second Amendment right, and this would go for any of the rights that we have within your own home. So if I own a firearm, if I own a shotgun, I like to go hunting, and all of a sudden they say, no, I can't have that firearm even in my house, or transport it from my house out to my truck so I can go hunting. I think I don't think that an HOA should be able to take away any of your rights to freedom of speech, freedom of religion. I mean, where do you start, where do you stop? I do believe that HOAs do have the ability to limit some things, but when you start talking about they're limiting a constitutional right, I don't think that that's where we need to go. So that was my view on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator Larson?
Yes, we voted, this passed the Senate. I voted against it because, well, I mean, the bill doesn't prohibit you from having a gun in your home if you are within your own private four walls. What it does is it allows an HOA to, if they want to, by their own democratic process, ban guns or ammunition from the common areas of that HOA. It allows a person to do that, or it allows the HOA to do that. And I feel like we shouldn't limit their ability to make their own rules, because it doesn't apply in the house. You could still have a gun in the house, you could still have ammunition in the house, so it's not really taking away your right. It is actually allowing the right for the HOA to make the decision about what's allowed in their common areas.
All right. Oh, Representative Tortzen.
I would just respectfully disagree a little bit. I think if it was only talking about common areas, that would have been more clear, and I don't think you would have saw the wide-ranging support that it has. I would just encourage you guys to go look at the text of the resolution or of the bill.
All right. We are going to stay on the topic of guns and ammo for a second here, or more than a second, I would imagine. Again, multiple questions have come in on Senate Joint Resolution 506. Proposes an amendment to the state constitution expanding gun rights, and I believe one of the questions says some sales tax exemptions in it as well, and I personally haven't read that one yet. So what are your thoughts on this resolution? And will you vote on it? Representative Nelson.
There are many methods to get your point across in the legislature, and through a joint resolution, sometimes our fellow colleagues will use them to grandstand. And I view this as a method by which they are trying to make a statement rather than enact good policy. I'll leave it at that.
Representative Tortzen.
Thank you. I'm going to somewhat echo the comments from a good friend, good representative over there, which I wish we were kind of interscattered a little bit. So, yeah, just looking at the sponsors on this one, again, this is the first time I'm looking at it too. Looking at the sponsors on it, proposing it as a joint resolution to amend the Constitution, I think is only for serious matters. This one seems more like, and it's an election year too, you're going to see some bills that are just people's point of getting messaging across, and we need to take all this stuff seriously, but I don't know. I don't see this one gaining much traction.
Doesn't look like there are any other takers on that, so we're going to move on to some education-related topics. So we're going to go to House Bill 1221. This was the school lunch bill, and I believe that this has already been acted on, but we have multiple questions on the topic, so I'm going to put it out there anyway. So what was your position or opinion on the school lunch bill, and why House Bill 1221? 1042, okay. Pardon?
That was the 2023 bill number. This year's 1042.
Thank you so much. I bet Representative Whitman knows something about that. All right. Any takers? Representative Tortzen.
I got called out. No, part of this format too, sometimes there's some benefits to go last, but no, I just want to say, so one of my, I would say my good friend and colleague, Representative Whitman here in the crowd, really helped champion this thing this last year, and was pleased to be a part of that. Really worked hard over the year to build a coalition of different stakeholders, bring different folks together from across the state, bipartisan. We had Republican and Democrat House and Senate members, and we had a really good conversation in Education Committee, and I supported it, still support it. We've been working and talking. I'm trying to fine tune a kind of a phase 2 or a part 2 option here that we'll try to introduce this week, calendar-wise for the legislature. This upcoming week on Wednesday is the last day for individual bill introductions. And so even though we have a high number of bills right now, I think we're at 384 or so, you'll probably see quite a few more bills drop. This is one that I think is important. Child food insecurity rate in South Dakota is way too high. Kids need to be there. There's so many benefits with it. It's an important conversation to have. Again, there's been a lot of good conversations. We're heading in the right direction. We need to find a way. So I'll leave it at that.
Representative Nelson and then Representative Healy.
Thank you, Betty. This was a wonderful bill, actually, bipartisan support, and we see states around us. North Dakota just last year passed 200% AMI for that. This would have created that reduced category, making those lunches free for those students. One of the issues is the paperwork. We've got a difficult time with families filling out the paperwork to be able to, they are qualified, but they don't receive this funding. The school district doesn't receive the funding because they're not filling out the paperwork. That goes into a whole host of other things. But when we look at this bill that would have taken about $600,000, Representative Caden Whitman put her heart out on the floor, and I sat on that coalition. Representative Tortzen sat on that coalition, Representative Arland, Senator Mike Roll from Aberdeen, and my colleagues right here, Larson and Healy, to make sure that we are feeding kids, that no kid goes hungry. how can we expect young kids to pay attention and do well in school when we've got rumbling tummies? That's something that we have in our control, and we have to do better. So I commend that effort. It lost very narrowly, and so you can bet that we will continue working in a bipartisan manner to make sure that that happens.
You're getting really good on that timing cutoff. Yeah, there you go. Representative Healy.
I'll be really brief because I feel like Representative Nelson really covered a wide, just why it's just so important. But we also know that there's a lot of teachers out there who are spending their own money providing food for their classrooms. I know a few friends myself who have oatmeal for their high school students to come in before school even starts to have a hot meal. We also know that districts would really benefit from this bill because it would keep money from coming out of the general fund. It would cover our negative school balances that we're seeing. We know that specific issues coming out of Sioux Falls. And one of the arguments that was made was that we need to rely on donations to cover the balance. And that's just not a sustainable business model. But it's also, I don't believe the school districts can actually take money from churches, from nonprofits to fund that. So it's just not sustainable. This is a sustainable solution, and it is not that costly, and it's a good way that we can ensure that our kids are fed, that they're taken care of, and that they can really set themselves up for success in the future.
Right, Representative Cole.
Okay, this gives me an opportunity to do some bragging points for the Brandon Valley School District. Brandon Valley School District, we were informed earlier this year that, and apparently it's been going on for a while, if they qualify for free or reduced in Brandon Valley covers that cost for even the reduced. So very, very similar to what this bill is trying to accomplish. They do it on their own. There's also a number, you talked about the raising funds, donation funds. You know, I participated with the Optimist Club for a number of years with a wild game feed, and all of our money went to the Brandon Valley School District to assist those kids that, you know, for whatever reason, their accounts were low, and you know, they got more than a piece of bread with butter on it and a carton of milk. We covered some of those costs, but again, that's not necessarily sustainable. So I did back this bill also, and was a little bit disappointed that it got sent to the 41st day.
Thank you. All right, we will stay on the education topic. I've got, again, multiple questions have come in on this. What I've got for bill numbers is House Bill 1042, 1066, and 1137. I don't know if those are correct, but the questions are all about getting the funding for education to teacher salaries. So is reducing a district's state aid the proper way to address teacher salaries? So that's the kind of, they're all similar, questions are all written similarly, but numbers are different on them, so I'm not sure. Rep. Nelson will go first.
Thank you, Betty. Hello. There we go. So real quick, minute and a half. When there's a call for increase in teacher salaries, I think most people will agree in that we need to make sure that our wonderfully qualified individuals who are teaching the future of our communities are compensated at a reasonable rate that is making them be able to thrive and continue to come back to education to pour into young minds. Now, a call for direct teacher salary increases, when we heard 7% last year for the big three, that does not directly correlate to increase in teacher salary, right? So there was criticism by the governor of school districts not giving that directly to the teacher base salary. So you also have to think about entire package compensation. The state funding formula, I also have a bill, 1135, which would allow some districts to allow some flexibility in the averaged enrollment, or using the current fall enrollment, whichever is greater, to not penalize growth, but allow school districts that have seen a steep decline to be able to manage that better. Now, the entire funding formula, I believe, really needs a significant look at, because it is a bunch of factors that all go into each other, and I'm done, I'm sorry. It needs a fix.
Do I have other takers? Representative Torrenson.
I'll keep mine under 90 seconds, but this is good because some politicians can talk too long. So you guys run a good show here. I'll just say, without getting into specifics on bills, I know you said like 1066. That one was Representative Deutsch. It was a kind of a grant incentive program for help with teacher recruitment and retention. That bill died in committee. But really what it comes down to, and Representative Nelson hit on it quite a bit, is, and this has been an issue for 20 plus years that I've been watching it, we need to pay our teachers more. That's something that we all care about. I think that we all agree on. Some of the mechanics of how it gets there and how it shakes out doesn't always line up. And so that's why you're really seeing this conversation hit ahead, led by kind of the governor and her secretary, but a lot of legislators have been talking about this for a while too. Again, when we talked 7% increase to education last year, and some districts hit that, some districts exceeded that on teacher salaries, some districts didn't. I just think it's a disservice. We need to do what we can to get out of 49th, 50th, 51st in teacher pay. They are educating our next generation. If we mess that up, we are screwed as a country and as a community. So it's critically important. We need to find ways to do better.
Almost at the stop sign.
Oh, I had like 20 seconds.
We're going to go Representative Healy and then Senator Larson.
I'll try to be brief. Yes, we need to fund the actual formula too. But we also need to look at why teachers are leaving. It is because of pay, but there's also other reasons. When we're looking at how we can incentivize people to enter into the teaching profession, why are they not entering into the teacher profession? And I think if we take a look at what our state has done recently in terms of what we've done to our educators and our professionals in education, and we're continuing to chip away at standards and their ability to teach, and their ability to teach the issues and the topics that they need to teach. And when we look at how we continue to chip away at what they can say in the classroom, we really need to consider that that is harmful to the teaching profession. So it's not all about funding. Yes, of course, I will wholeheartedly always support our teachers. We need to continue to ensure that we are paying them an adequate wage, a good, livable wage that a professional deserves, but we also need to treat them like professionals.
All right, Senator Larson.
I would agree with Cameron Nelson when he was talking about the school funding, the school formula. We need to relook at that. And I think the greatest example is the case of Rapid City, where we feel good about ourselves because last year we increased funding for education by 7%. But when you run that 7% through the school funding formula, which has so many different factors in it, including number of students, those school systems who are losing students even a little bit will have a big drop in their budget, and they might not be able to absorb that drop. And so it's interesting because the public perceives us really investing in education, but certain school districts then actually have the opposite effect. And so I think we need to stop that and relook at that formula to be able to compensate for that.
All right. Okay. I forgot where I was going. One more education question. So Senate Bill 72 is about increasing the limit of tax credits that an insurance company may claim through the Partners in Education Tax Credit Program. And the question is, what is your position on this Senate Bill 72? Representative Healy.
We see this bill every other year. Senate Bill 72 allows more tax credits. So basically, this opportunity scholarship that exists for low-income families so they can attend a private school continues to come back every other year to ask for more money. Well, I think it's fine that there are parents out there who want to send their kid to private school and might need some kind of scholarship in order to be able to do that. We all know that kids learn in different ways and might do better in a private school setting than a public school setting. That's wonderful. But I wholeheartedly disagree that we are continuing to chip away at the public funds and our money for public school students and filtrating it through this system and calling it a tax credit when really it's just taking money away from the general fund. And again, we continue to do this every year. They keep coming back for more money. The scholarship program keeps coming back for more money. And I just wonder when it's going to end, because it's going to eventually be very detrimental to our public school system.
Senator Zickman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This program was brought out about, I don't know, half a dozen years ago, 6, 8 years ago, whatever it was. And since that time, it's grown a lot. There are now a lot of, quite a few disadvantaged students that are taking advantage of this program. There's a lot of people that feel good about it. And by the way, when you talk about homeschooling and other schooling like private schools, there are now approximately 11,000 students that are either homeschooled or in private schools. You take 11,000 students times the average student that we pay about $5,000 a year for, it's close to around that. That's a lot of money for the schools, for these public schools. So we need to watch that. I'm a sponsor of the bill. I think it's a good bill because anything that we can do to help our students to improve and go further, I think it's good. But we need to watch what we're doing down the road and how many times this comes back to us, because it's come back to us quite a few times. So we just need to watch what we do. So, and I see it's now it's coming over to appropriations. So thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, we're going to move on to a new, oh, wait, yeah, Representative Torrson, sorry.
Just waiting to see if anybody else is going to go. So we just had this one on the education this week, on House education. It was a good conversation. I won't reiterate some of the points that Senator Zickman already hit on, but I will say that, last year we rightfully increased the South Dakota Opportunity Scholarship, so increasing that scholarship opportunity there, which is in higher ed. That's a totally different program. But this is an insurance tax credit program, and so it's not basically rerouting money from state revenue. This is trying to capture more. So we're looking at increasing it from $3.5 million to $5 million. And the reason why I voted to support this is because I support education, and I believe all of the above strategy to provide options. And so this is for low-income students too, that giving them the option if they're looking at private school, being able to have the scholarship opportunity to help with that aspect. And I'm supportive of public education. I've said that numerous times. I'm a product of public education. My kids are going to go to public education. We need to do better there, and we are. We're investing every year, and so that was my take on it.
All right. So now we'll move on to a new topic. I've got several questions that have come in on eminent domain. None of them have a bill number assigned, but due to the, having the multiple questions, I'm going to put it out there of what is your position on eminent domain? And it's relative to the carbon pipeline, all of them are. There's no bill number on it. It's just kind of but I've got probably actually 6 questions about CO2 and eminent domain. So you can speak to it if you want or not. I mean, there's not, but I just feel with that volume of questions, I'm just put it out there to have in your heads and to acknowledge the people that submitted that if they're.
Okay,
You'll go?
I'll kind of
okay.
start a little bit.
Thank you.
this is, there's a number of bills that are coming, and it's kind of a dicey topic. Some of the bills, they want to define, change eminent domain for this or for that and everything, but sometimes I have to look at these and I have to say, what are the unintended consequences if we change some of these complex laws? The pipeline, last year I felt the best place for the pipeline and the pipeline debate as it pertains to CO2 really does belong with the PUC. And so they heard Navigator last time, and they rejected Navigator. Summit Solutions stepped back. They're reviewing some of the things that they're doing, and they're probably going to be bringing another bill. So each one of these bills, I kind of look at it and I say, what is the possible impact down the road? And so it's one that's, it's still in motion, so.
Yeah. Senator Larson, and then Representative Nelson.
I would just echo Chief Cull over there, that this is an issue that stirs up a lot of emotions. And I have listened to the landowners groups that talk about people coming in and forcibly surveying land and doing a lot of things against their will. So there is such a great economic development case for the pipeline, and yet it is also referring to where are we going as a country in our energy usage? If you want to take a bird's eye view, 1,000 miles up, because this is all related to creating and producing ethanol. So there's that whole world there. There's the world of private property rights. There's the world of making profit off of this, off of eminent domain, and where the boundaries should be on that. It's very hard to comment without there yet being an actual proposal or position in the form of a bill. So I kind of have my position like Chief Cull in that I'm going to look at all the options in that realm and see, analyze the unintended consequences. And that's about all that we can do when we get an actual bill in front of us. There's going to be a lot of testimony on whatever comes out, and I plan on listening and just seeing what is best for South Dakota over the long term.
Great. We're going to go Representative Nelson and then Senator Zickman.
So fundamentally, I believe in no eminent domain for private gain. I think that the use of eminent domain should fall within the context of public use, public good, rights of way for that utility. So my position all along, you've got folks who want to be economic developers, support the ethanol industry, understandable to a certain extent. You've got folks that are against the pipeline inherently because it is scarring the earth, and that the CO2 sequestration is just beginning to the end of more fracking and future carbon burning. So when we look at these bills, we just had one that was looking at preempting requiring a permit that was allowed, an approved permit before the survey. Well, a part of the permitting process is to submit the survey. So there's a lot of things that go into this. I'll say this. From the get-go, if people want to move a company into South Dakota and have this, then every landowner has their right, their individual right to say, here's an easement on my land. If they don't want that, then I challenge the companies. It will be expensive to reroute. We need to look at our siting laws. We need to look at transparent negotiations.
Thank you. I did get a note brought up that there is the corresponding bill number was House Bill 1190, but Senator Zickman, you are up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, this is a hot and topic issue because the landowners, and my wife and I are landowners too, but not in the area of you'd be surprised how, if you did some studies, or look at some studies that are done, how many pipes, how many wires that there are now underground. It's just amazing. They're going all across everywhere, et cetera. It's just amazing. This is now, there's going to be some bills out, like the good representative said. There's going to be more bills out on the issue. Also, we have to take a look at how it impacts the landowner. But it's in the hands of the PUC, and I'm not on Commerce and Energy anymore. They got me off of there and hid me over in appropriations. But I'm not on Commerce and Energy anymore. So I'm not on the bill that most of those bills will be heard. That and Judiciary and probably State Affairs are the three. So it's in the hands of some of the legislators, but it's more in the hands of the PUC, and they have not scheduled a meeting. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Representative Tortzen.
Thank you. I'll try to squeeze this in 90 seconds. Really, I think all sides of this issue, I'm not going to say both, all sides of this issue are probably 80+% on the same page. And really what it comes down to is we need to have and maintain that respect for landowners and our property rights. We also need certainty in our process, certainty for economic development projects, that we're not changing the rules of the game midstream. Really when you look back, this kind of came to a head because you had a company that, I'll say, totally my words, kind of in the gray area, and should they be eligible for eminent domain or not? Are they public or are they private? Is the end use for public good or not? That kind of aspect. And their representatives were not Midwest nice and did not, I think, have adequate communication and consultation with some landowners. They didn't have respect for the process. You go back and look at some of the companies that historically totally fit the bill, like Northwestern Energy or Mid-American, some of these electric and gas companies for these projects, and they have a track record of 100+ years of service in our state and our region, and some of them have never had to use eminent domain. You know why? Because they have consultation and respect. And so what we need to do is find a compromise, which I think you'll see in this House bill that just dropped. I think there's a Senate bill dropping here in the next couple of days too, that hopefully we can thread that needle, give some respect back to the process, re-educate everybody on the process, and find that compromise solution. That's what we need in our state, and I think we're close. I think we'll get there.
Representative Healy.
Just to get my perspective in on as everyone else has talked. I wholeheartedly agree with everyone. This is just such a really intricate, just difficult subject, and I'm looking forward to seeing more bills. They have come in front of State Affairs last year. One of the main questions last year was if CO2 was a public commodity. And we have seen rulings in this state saying that yes, it is a public commodity. So it will be interesting to see as we're moving forward what kind of legislation comes out of this year. It sounds like there has been a lot of work done with PUC, all of the large companies involved in this conversation, and somewhat of the landowners. So I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out, and hopefully we can see some good resolutions coming out of this year's legislature.
All right, thank you. We are going to move on to Senate Bill 184. I believe this is probably, I think it's at a hearing, but multiple questions again, and kind of should drag performances, be criminal acts, and what do you consider obscene content? I don't know, that had 1178, so I don't know that that's the same one. So let's stick to Senate Bill 184. Takers. Representative Cole, thank you.
You want me to do this one? Okay, crimes, minors, obscenity, and public indecency. You know, I think I looked at this a little bit last night. Very similar to expand provisions regarding protection of minors from certain exhibitions. And we had one last year that was going to restrict college campuses, state-owned college campuses, from lewd and lascivious displays. And my problem with that bill is how do you define lewd and lascivious in this day and age? As I said and I voted against that one. I was one of very, very few Republicans that did up there. I've never been to a drag show. I have no intention of ever going to a drag show. It's probably not in my cup of tea and everything, but I've talked to people. Some people look at it as a performance, an artistic thing, and I can't necessarily disagree with that. And one of the things I cited is back when Statue of David came to town, there were a lot of people that wanted to put a diaper on him or, throw fig leaves or whatever, because they looked at it as a lewd and lascivious and obscene piece of art. And that was a conversation we had back in the 1970s, and it's nice to see that those conversations are continuing. I wanted to get one of those rings.
Representative Healy.
Well, I've been to a drag show, and the ones I've been to are fun, so I'll tell you that. I'll just say what I said in State Affairs, because this is not the first time we've heard this year. We heard Senate Bill 113, or 1113, which is very similar. And then, unfortunately, another similar bill was just dropped, 1178. So this is one of 3 lewd and lascivious bills that we're going to be hearing this year. It's kind of Groundhog's Day. We heard it last year. We heard it this year already. We're hearing it again. And what we heard in committee last week was it just doesn't look right. Well, something that doesn't look right to you might not look right, might look okay to the next person. And our First Amendment rights to free speech and expression gives us the freedom to decide and to have that opinion. And lewd and lascivious content, it is vague and subjective. And I remember there's also a word in there that's prurient. That's not defined either. What is tasteful art? That also might not look the same from one person to the next. The government doesn't and should never impose personal values or morals on others. This type of expression and speech that is or isn't allowed, it shouldn't be set by legislators who like or don't like anything on any given day. So I will continue to oppose this. It is definitely a huge First Amendment violation.
I think everybody's going for the bells today. Senator Larson and then Representative Nelson?
This falls into the category of cultural distractions that I don't even choose to personally comment on the floor, because I think it just takes away from the real problems that we need to be talking about that South Dakota people face.
Yes, and I really view this as an infringement on the First Amendment, freedom of speech. This is an initiative that is going across the entire country that is trying to vilify trans and queer people. That is not acceptable. That is not okay. This bill that you mentioned, Senate Bill 184, let me just read you this definition. Drag performance: singing, speaking, dancing, acting, simulating, or pantomiming where a performer, in a lewd and lascivious manner, and in the presence of others, exhibits a gender identity that is different from the performer's biological sex through the use of clothing, makeup, or other physical markers. This is an attack on trans people. I'm sorry, that's what it is. And there are people who continue to use their station and their role as an elected official to make cultural divisive statements. We must be working toward inclusivity in this state of South Dakota. That is for everyone, no matter what your background is, who you are, what you look like, or who you happen to be. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? All right. We'll move along. I'm a little surprised that we only had one question come in over the voter bills and election reform, because I think there's 10 plus, if not more, introduced again this year, but we got one. So we are going to Senate Bill 119. Can tribal photo IDs be used for voter registration? If not, why? It's got Senate Bill 119, but I don't know. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I just don't know if I'm going to be able to get this in 90 seconds. I don't want to hit the chimes, but So this is one that came up in 2020. This is one that Senator Bordeaux is bringing. I've talked to him about it this week. It's already scheduled for a hearing Monday. I told him I'm willing to help him fine tune it to see if we can actually make this happen. Right now, tribal photo IDs, which I have on me, they're valid photo IDs. They can be used, they're in state statute now. They can be used for business transactions, for identification. They can be used to show up to get your ballot when you go to vote. Now, registering to vote, according to state law and federal law, there's certain requirements that they need to be able to verify your identity and your eligibility to register to vote. And so it's not just as simple as putting down your tribal enrollment number on your voter ID card or your tribal ID card and then being able to register to vote with the Secretary of State's office or your local county. And so there's a piece there, and it needs to be a state-tribal relationship so that the tribe can opt in with the state and choose to be able to share information that verifies, again, eligibility to vote or residency or whatever it may be to safeguard our elections. And so it's going to take a little bit of finessing with the current language, the way it's written. I'm hopeful that we can do that. I think it would be a good step. I think it's good to improve state-tribal relations anywhere we can. And so stay tuned, I guess. We'll see what we can do.
Anyone else? Okay, all righty. So we're going to move to House Bill 1098. Do you support providing birth certificates at no cost to the homeless? Why or why not? Representative Torton, were you raising your hand?
Yep.
All right.
This one would be really tough for me not to support. I'm bringing the bill. And my good friend here, Senator Larson, is going to help us get it through the Senate too. This is one, and I got to give another shout out to Representative Caden Whitman. Her and I were both fellows with the NCSL. It's one of a nationwide nonpartisan organization for legislators. We were part of this fellowship for youth homelessness this summer, so we got to attend different conferences. She's got a lot of experience in the space. I learned a ton, and this is one that is kind of a no-brainer. Low-hanging fruit, a lot of other states do it. Basically what we're asking is let's just waive the fee for people experiencing homelessness to be able to get a certified copy of their birth certificate, which can be the domino effect that you need to get a social security card, to get a driver ID, if you're a veteran, to be able to get veteran benefits, that there's a lot of programs out there too. And so this is one that I think we're gonna have a lot of support on. I haven't heard of any opposition yet. It's the right thing to do. It's $15. We do it already too. If you go look, you can check the box right now. If you're enrolling your kid in Head Start, we waive the fee. If you're enrolling your kid in American Legion Baseball, it's like an old 1930 statute, we waive the fee. We can do this one.
Great. Anyone else? Representative Nelson?
Thank you, Betty. Ditto. I think we can all agree on supporting this. Looks like Representative Tortzen just got the fiscal note back yesterday, which looks like a grand total of $16,623, which is budget dust. So I think we can all support that and do the right thing. So I look forward to supporting the representative in that in Health Committee, which I think was deferred. So.
This is what we hear in committee all the time. We don't hear ditto, we hear me too. Thank you.
Thank you. I've had held back a couple of questions on gun control, but I'm going to throw them out there now. So there's not a bill number on these, but they're both addressing red flag laws. What is your position on red flag laws? I don't know specifically what there's no number on the cards, sorry. No, there's no bill. All right, we will, again, so I've got others here that don't have numbers on, but I'm gonna use them. This is a subject on local control, and the question is, there are bills submitted that will take away county control over planning and zoning, especially with setbacks and siting. I know there was one local control related about political signs, but Representative
Betty.
Nelson?
Thank you. So I believe that is kind of through the guise of the CO2 pipeline topic as well. So currently, the counties have the ability to make the determination for themselves as far as those setbacks. There is a bill, I believe it was Representative Weisgram, if I'm not mistaken, that would require the standard across the state. I'm not a huge proponent of setting that standard. I understand the need to have some consistency when you're doing a project of anything, of any size, of scale. But I think that ultimately that responsibility should lie with the local jurisdiction in the county.
Representative Cole?
I'm going to venture in here just a little bit. When you have something that's crossing multiple counties and going across the state, and this is once again applies to everything, you have to have some standard. Otherwise, if you're driving down the road in Minnehaha County and then you hit Lincoln County and the road goes from, we'll say 60 feet wide to 40 feet wide, and then you go to the next county and then they've got an 80-foot wide road. Some of that doesn't make sense. And rail line is probably one that kind of jumps out there. If you have a rail line that's running across a state or multiple states, you kind of want all the rails to be the same distance apart, whatever it is, 4 foot, 8 inches or something like that. And this kind of falls into that, and they're trying to figure out, again, a standard. And this is one of those unintended consequences that you can have. So if you have one county that has a setback of 1,000 feet and another county that has a setback of 250 feet, it's very, very difficult for anything to happen. But it's another one of the pipeline bills. I've got an open mind on it, and it's just something that it's going to be an interesting debate.
All right. A couple more questions here that we're going to go through before we move to closing comments. So this is a question on Senate Bill 46. The card says the subject is Dakota Home. What are we trying to do with this, and what will be different if the bill passes? Senate Bill 46. That's what it's got on here. Okay. So the comment from the audience was part of the Housing Opportunities Fund.
Can you restate? So it's 146 from last year, right?
It says Senate Bill 46.
That is the bill from last year.
Oh, okay. Well,
Right.
it's about Dakota Home, which is the Department of Social or Human Services program to help elderly people find services, I think. So, well, I think we will move on to, we'll see if this one has.
I have all these memorized.
We'll go to, this is House Bill 1093. It's actually, I think, an appropriations bill. How do you plan to vote on 1093 money for Lifescape is what the question says. Yep. So.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Senator.
I think this is the bill for $8 million for Lifescape to write. They want this $8 million to finish their building, new building. And there's going to be some good discussion on this because the problem is now you don't have the money that we once had. And so things have got to look at cutting back. I talked to the director of Lifescape. He and I had a good discussion, and I can understand where he was coming from and what his plans are, et cetera. So it goes to the new building. I will probably be the prime on the Senate side. I'm on the bill, and he's asked me to prime it on the Senate side, and he's got a prime on the House side. So that'll come to us, and so at probably somewhere along the line. But it's money well spent for Lifescape. They provide a lot of good services to a lot of our young people, and they just provide a lot of good services, period. And they're a good program, good system. They have some plans for some other areas, other buildings, et cetera, and so I'm probably going to be the prime on it on the Senate side. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Representative Healy.
Thank you. I don't have all the details yet, other than what was just said and looking at the bill itself, but if this is coming out of Lifescape, which I'm assuming that this is something that is needed. I know rehabilitative services in general in our state, whether you're an adult or a kid, are incredibly difficult to get right now. It's very difficult to find a bed in our state if you have a brain injury or any rehabilitative services that you need. So this will be something that I will for sure be supporting.
Senator Nelson.
Ooh, a
Representative.
promotion. Thank you, Betty. I do plan on supporting this. Lifescape does a lot of wonderful work as a community support provider for children with varied disabilities in our community. And that's not just here in Sioux Falls. They serve kiddos from all across the state of South Dakota. And so I do trust our appropriators to determine what is the final dollar amount that we can afford, but I think this, I would echo the sentiments of the Senator Zickman, that is a worthy cause, and there's all sorts of worthy causes out there.
All right, so we are going to move on to closing statements, about 11:20, so we'll get wrapped up by 11:30. Just a reminder, with closing statements, you each have 90 seconds. You can address issues that have already come up, so now if Senator Larson remembers that earlier question she wanted to rebuttal, she can throw it in. I don't. And with the closing statements, we will start on my right. So we will start with Senator Zickman.
They want to get me out of here first. First of all, I want to thank everybody and people in District 14 for voting for me. It's been a specific honor. When I go in either the House or the Senate floors, I've served 6 years in the House, now 4 years in the Senate. I look up at that ceiling on it, and I thank District 14 and the people of South Dakota, and thank the good Lord for putting me there. The other thing I thank is, of course, the veterans. I want to mention one thing. I try to work with Democrats, Republicans, Native Americans, etc., and I work with all of them. I see a person. Can I pick out a person in the audience, Madam Chair?
You can.
Thank you. Senator Nessebar. I see him in the back. Good friend of mine. We've done some bills together, and he came to me last year. The governor provided $2 million for the Guard. If they go to our public universities, their tuition is covered. And Senator Nessebar came to me last year, and he knows I do a lot of things with veterans, etc. And he said, we need to add the private universities. And I said, you're right. So he and I went to work, and I want to give him credit for that, because the governor put it in her bills to cover those guard people that are going, guards people that are going to, like Augie and USF, et cetera, to all our private universities, because there are people, and we need to cover them. So Senator Nessebar, I told you I was going to give you credit someplace along the line, and I thank you for that, and thank you for supporting our veterans. Thanks again I'm done. Thank you.
I let you go a little long, but.
Okay, apparently I have to yield some of my time to him. And gratefully, because I'm not long-winded, or maybe I am. This is my first term, and I wasn't sure what I was going to expect when I got out there. And what I got was a learning experience. This year is year 2 of the learning experience, so I consider myself a sophomore. And and it's been good. One of the things that I do like to say is that we all seem to get along, even with these people over here. And it's most of the time, not all the time. Yeah, that's right, Cameron. But anyway, it's been a great experience. I do plan on running for re-election next year. Oh, well, you know, so I can continue learning some more. I'm also going to point out Senator Nesbitt and indicate that we compete against each other kind of on Wordle, and we tied each other today. So, you know, we both got it in 3, which is great. I'm also going to point out Senator Duba down here, and I mean Representative Duba, maybe a future senator, I don't know. We graduated from Washington High together, so we've been acquainted with each other all along. She does a fantastic job. These people that work in appropriations, my hat is off to them because they work all the time. Thank you.
Just trying to run out the clock. I just want to say thank you. Thank you all for taking your time to be here, too. This is great to see this kind of turnout of people that are engaged and care about this process. I want to thank you to my colleagues, too. This is awesome to be able to see from seasoned legislators to us youthful ones. It's good. I tell people any chance I get, diversity is a good thing. Diversity of ideas and people and perspectives, and that's what you're seeing in your legislature now. We're seeing people with young kids. Representative Healy's kid, I've seen he gets to more events and socials and time at everything. So that's awesome too. And so our process, I know it feels like a roller coaster at times. We don't always agree, and you may not always agree with the bills that end up passing or get introduced or become law, but really our process is really good. One thing that I've learned is in our session, 40 days or less, citizen legislature, we balance our budget every year, and there's natural accountability built into the process. It's just too small of a state for things to get too far out of hand. Every bill gets a hearing. That's not true in other states, and that's not true in Congress either. Bills don't get hidden. If a bill gets introduced, it's going to see the light of day. It's going to have a hearing, and that's when things can get fleshed out too. So I just feel really good about the process. I hope you do too. Please continue to stay involved. Please reach out to us. We don't have the monopoly on ideas. We need to work together. We can. I think we're trying to prove that this year, and just really looking forward to seeing what we can do to make a difference. I don't think that there's any problems that we can't solve when we work together. But thank you guys for being here.
Well, that's very nice, and thank you guys for coming and being a part of it and being friendly as well. I think that Chief Cull is right when he says we actually get along quite well, and we work together quite well for the most part. And I guess just in closing for me, we talk about eminent domain and healthcare and education, and those are always kind of the big topics right now. But one of the things that I've tried to do is focus on some more niche bipartisan areas where we can work ahead that are important as well. One of those areas that I've found is artificial intelligence. So one of the bills that I'm working on that I'm just kind of hoping you guys follow is I'm doing a bipartisan series of bills with Senator Johnson on AI deepfakes in elections, because what we're seeing is that there's a lot of states that are addressing this and starting to legislate this process. I mean, you saw there were robocalls going out in New Hampshire, which were supposedly Joe Biden's voice calling thousands of people, telling them not to vote. So we're seeing these things in elections, and I'm trying to work across party lines to address some of these things that aren't quite in the local news all the time, but that are still going to be really important, and especially when it comes to technology, they're going to be things that we need to grapple with in the future. So thanks again for coming.
Just wanted to thank the League for having us. Democracy truly works best when we all show up, when we all ask questions, and we're all engaged. If you ever have any questions about legislation or any ideas, some of my best legislation comes out of constituent questions and understanding of issues that I don't understand, and we've gotten some really great things passed in the past. So if you ever have any questions or want to accomplish something with me, please feel free to reach out. Get involved with the legislative process. If you want to attend the legislature or understand how to access it online, email us. Please continue to show up, to speak out, to ask questions. Like I said, democracy truly works best when we all show up, when we are all present. And with that,
serve District 10 here in Sioux Falls. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for organizing this legislative coffee here today. I think ultimately I'm in pursuit of a South Dakota that works for everyone, and I think we can all agree on that. We certainly have some disagreements in what that looks like and how we get there, but conversations that I've had with colleagues of every style and flavor has been really actually substantive, and I've learned a great deal here in this first term of mine. And I know that we will continue working toward making sure that our public education, our K-12 systems, even our post-secondary institutions are supported, that individuals have access to health care and the ability to make that determination for themselves. I believe in supporting our Native American communities and listening to the needs of our Indigenous people. And so when we have conversations with Representative Pri Poirier from Oglala and Senator Red Don Foster and Bordeaux and Emery from Rosebud, who are working with our colleagues, Representative Tortson and St. John, to make sure that the state of South Dakota supports ICWA and upheld. Senator Abaraz was the author of that at a federal level, and that was upheld in the Supreme Court, and I would love to see that here in South Dakota. Thank you.
One fun fact is we're 3 weeks into this, and the competition between the Senate and the House, we're at 192 for the House and 192 for the Senate. We're in a tie as far as the number of bills that have dropped. That'll change next week. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, one last comment and.
That's it. I've been up there in a year when we had over 700 bills.
Yeah.
So I don't know where we're going to end up. Right now it's 400, but there's been a lot of drop, and there's a deadline, so watch it.
I'm going to age myself. I think I was there in the hallways in one of those years of close to 700 bills before it was all computerized and you were carrying big books of paper. So anyhow, we are going to wrap this up. I do want to just remind all of you that we have 2 remaining legislative coffees. They will be Saturday, February 10th. The forum part starts at 10. You can join us in the hall outside the atrium, 9:30 for coffee. That one will focus on South Central Sioux Falls with Districts 6, 12, and 13. And then again, we'll be back here February 17th. Same time frame, hearing from our legislators from the west and north areas of Sioux Falls, Districts 9, 11, and 15. And for those who may be listening to our live stream, we are in the Hamry Recital Hall on the campus of Augustana University. If you are not able to attend in person, we'd love to have people here in the audience with us, but if that can't happen, we are live streaming at the Sioux Falls League of Women Voters Facebook page and YouTube channel. And again, I need to thank our sponsors and partners in doing this. The League couldn't pull this off on their own, and we are grateful for all the help that has stepped forward this year. So AARP of South Dakota, the Augustana Democrats and Augustana Republicans, Change Agents of South Dakota, LEAD, Media One, the South Dakota Federation of Labor, the South Dakota Advocacy Network for Women, the Sioux Falls Education Association, and the UFCW Local 304A. I did have a couple of folks stop me in the hallway and asked if we would accept goodwill donation to support this. Absolutely. Find anybody with a button like this if you want, make a gift to support the continuing of the legislative coffees. Also want to say thank you to Augustana University for the use of the recital hall. Media One is doing our live streaming on the Facebook and website, our YouTube page, as I said. We have great interpreters from Interpreter Services here today, Michael and Hannah. Thank you so much. And 2 last really big thank yous. First of all, you've been a wonderful audience. Yay. so glad that you took the time to be here with us today. And my last big thank you is to the 6 people up here with me. They have been a tremendous panel today. Lots of times we get a little partisan on some things. They have been wonderful in terms of engaging, answering questions, not just saying yes or no. As you could tell, we were running long on several ones. So I don't know which one of you guys said it, but boy, this is what democracy is about. So thank you so much. Well, I hope you all have a wonderful day. We'll be hanging around here in the atrium area for a while. Most of the members here might hang around and answer individual questions if you have them. Thank you.